Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today we continue our FL Studio series right here at BusyWorksBeats.com/FL Studio. Today we're going to focus on progressive house. You will get the project files for free. Just click the link below or go to BusyWorksBeats.com/FL Studio. So firstly, let's synthesize the sound. Let's open up Harmore or Serum. Really all we're going to use is a simple sawtooth. So let's open up this plugin in FL called Harmore. We're going to go to presets and default. So we have a simple sawtooth. Now, before we get into all the sound design and all the tweaking, let's write the chords first. We're at 120 BPM. And again, you will get the project files. Let's drag in a loop. So really, you just need something that goes, okay. Okay, so find a loop that you like. There's no right or wrong loop. We're gonna go to mode, stretch mode, and we're gonna zoom in here and drag this to the left. Now double click on your sample, go to the time knob and lock it to the grid just like that. By moving this, it locks to the grid. So now let's go to song mode. Now, if you don't like the open hi-hat, we can pick a different loop. Okay, so I like that because it has like a little more subtlety to it. Let's go to stretch, time knob. Now we can go from 120 to 128 BPM. There's no hard rule. 128 is a little fast for me, so I like to keep it at 120. Let's double click here, hit Control L, send it to the mixer. Okay, now we can highlight that loop, hit Control B to latch paste it, basically all the way throughout the song. Okay, unless you want specific change ups. Now let's go to the channel rack. Let's open up Serum, not Serum. I had Harmore open up, but you could also do this in Serum. My brain kind of skipped. Let's go to Harmore. And let's start writing some chords. So let's drag this pattern into the playlist and build as we're listening to the actual track. So let's draw this out. And let's right click, go to piano roll. So the chords are going to be progressive. You're thinking of going upward usually in happiness. There's no rule. Downward is sadness, upward is happiness. So if you want a rule, think about that rule. Let's start off with D minor and then drop D in the bass. Let's turn this down. And play long chords. They really love some long chords. Now let's switch it up. Let's go to the fifth here. Let's go to GBD, which is the fifth. And we could make this, you don't need to know all this music theory. Okay, you're gonna get the project files for free. Basically, we're making a dominant seventh chord and it's gonna come back down to G major. I'll show you a way to make this sound less like basic. And let's cut this in half with the slice tool. Hit shift, do a vertical slice, boom. Get rid of the second half. Let's drag this over. Okay, so this tension between the dominant chord and that tonic are gonna give you the motion to move back into that first chord. So the first chord can change, but usually it's 2-5-1. Now let's revoice this, it's called. We're gonna take these top notes, hit Control down. And that's less like jumpy. Okay, so now we can drag that over. Now let's go into Harmore and let's start sound designing the actual sound. Firstly, we're just gonna add unison here, the order amount. Let's turn this up to at least 4. And you can click this little eyeball to see the waveform, the harmonics to the right. And the main thing here is a filter. So we're gonna add this crude low pass. You can switch out the type of low pass. They have different ones. Snake low pass, which has like a little, it's not a full low pass. It looks like it has certain frequencies missing. Let's use this hybrid low pass. Again, you could try out the different ones. Now, if you want that lasery 80 sound, turn up the resonance knob. So I kind of like that sound. This is a little complex. So we're going to click. We can either right click and edit what's the name for it? Edit articulator, okay, which basically gives us an envelope to control this knob. So basically, instead of me moving the knob manually, I can tell the computer to move it for me. Okay, so firstly, I want to start with the knob up at 100%. You can read the values in the top left. Okay, so I'm trying to reach 100%. It's a little hard to hit it perfectly. We're going to turn this little button on to enable the envelope. We're going to tempo lock it so we can actually view the tempo. And there's another snap to grid button on here. Let's snap to grid with this little magnet icon, so stuff isn't just random. Okay, now we can zoom out and visually see how many bars we're at. And okay. Now we need to set what's called the minimum value for the frequency cutoff. So let's lower this. So let's say I want that to move. I guess that's a good speed. Let's just turn down the resonance a bit. I'm going to lower this 1 octave. Just go to frequency 1/2. You don't need to know what that means. I'll do all the work for you. Okay, so now we have our basic chord progression. We can add more filtering over time to kind of change that up. Okay, now let's lower the starting frequency so it's not so bright. Let's take one of these notes out, only because we revoiced. Okay, so now we need a kick. So let's find a kick and let's go to either, now it depends on what hard. We usually pick kicks that have like a little high frequency in it. Something like this, but we need it faster. So I'm going to go to a different pack here. Again, you will get the project files for free, so you don't have to keep sorting through all this stuff. I know in the future pack, they have Moon Patrol things. This kick cuts through. Also like the heavy duty kick. Okay, so let's send all this stuff to the mixer. Hit Control L. And what we're going to do now is set up a sidechain, your basic sidechain. So every time the kick hits, it will lower those pads. Let's go to our mixer. To set this up, we need to determine what do we want to lower, basically, or be side chained. So let's open up a mixer channel that's blank. Let's call this side chain. And we need to find our kick that we want to control the side chain. So in this case, we're just going to use the Moon Patrol kick. Right click that channel and side chain to this track. So now we're telling the kick to send a silent signal over to this track. Let's open up Fruity Limiter, which is the FL Studio easiest way to do it. Let's go to compressor mode and right click and select your kick as the input, sidechain input. Now, if we lower the threshold and turn up the ratio, every time the kick hits, it will lower the volume of our group of sounds or whatever we choose to add in that group. So let's add the kick to the and we need to send our loop or our pads to that group. So let's right click, route to this track only. So now this pad, sometimes in FL, it just decides what it wants to route to. I don't know why it changes, but we need to go back to the sidechain input and select our kick. You can change the curvature here. You could change. Okay, so let's work with the tone on this pad. Let's lower the starting frequency. Also, we can mess with what's called the volume envelope to give it a subtle attack. So it's like swells up. Let's also give it some effects. My head might be in the way, so let me try to make this screen. I can't see myself, so I'm assuming you guys can see this. But on the effects tab, we have reverb we could turn on, delay, chorus. Okay, so again, everything else is pretty much up to your own taste at that point. You want to keep messing with the tone of the sound. We we need to go back to our envelope view. So let's right click, edit articulator. I think too, the volume envelope kind of took away the vibe. So let's turn that back off. Now you can also sidechain your percussion. So I'm going to sidechain by routing it to the sidechain group. And then again, make sure your kick is the input. I'm not sure why FL. So also mess with your attack, because sometimes your kick, your sidechain attack is way too fast. Let's see what it sounds like without. Yeah, I kind of like the percussion breathing, because if not, it sounds a little restricted. Okay, so now we have all that set up. Let's go to our bass or our melodic element, and we could use Serum or Hardmore. We're gonna use Hardmore. Actually, let's use Serum just to kind of show you. It's a little bit easier in Serum to make stuff. So what we can do is use the notes from the chord, or we could. There's no right or wrong way, as long as you resolve your intervals, it's called. Now, usually the way they do this is they'll do it like call and response. So, like they'll do stuff like that. So it's like call and response. So the pad is the call, and then the response is your, we can call it an art, but it's not necessarily an arpeggio. Okay. So we're just playing the chord. So it's 1, 2, 3. Dun, 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 dun. As you can see, I'm not playing the notes fast enough. Let's change the snap to grid to 1/4 beat. So it goes like that. Drag these notes back over. And again, you will get the project files. I know this is a lot for, if you're a beginner coming here, this is a lot to take in. This is not for really beginners, but I'm just showing you the process. And we need to also make the notes short. So we need to make them short. And really what you want to do at this point is simply follow your chord progression. If you struggle with like hearing notes, you might want to move back to your, where you wrote your chords, go into your piano roll, go to view, piano roll options, go to view, and go to ghost channels. This will help you see the notes that are actually in your chord so that you can kind of have a rough, outline of where you could add the notes, because our chords change. So, I mean, everything is going to be different, but it's usually a call and response for this type of genre. Now we can go through and add all the, there's no rules to adding your melodic sound. We're going to add some compression. I'll show you a couple techniques. We'll go to multi-band compression and then add some reverb here. We want a long tail reverb. That reverb died out really quick. I'm also going to add what's called a filter envelope. Let's go to envelope 2, drag this over top of the cutoff. It's just a lot easier to sound design in Serum. Now we have more of a pluck approach to the sound, and you could also add lasery sounds with the resonance. Yeah, but I don't think we need that right now. You can add another oscillator. You can go up an octave, down an octave. I think it's best probably, because we have it on reverb, I'm just going to leave it to one oscillator, but you can thicken up the sound if you want. So we need to add that sound to the sidechain so it's not just jumping around. Let's right click here, route to this track only. So now that sound is going to the sidechain. Again, you have to keep changing the input. If you keep adding inputs here, it just changes. I don't know why. So now you get that pulsation sound. Because we have the reverb tail, it's exaggerating that pulsation sound because you can hear the reverb go down and up in volume. Let's also try a different kick. I think the other kick was fine. So here's a rule, well, not a rule. Here's an observation I'll say, is it sounds really repetitive if you keep repeating the same thing over and over again. So we're gonna take out some of the notes on the second half. Just let it rock and then end it with something. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now if you really want to get into the texture of sound and all that type of stuff, try sine waves modulated by other sine waves. It's called FM synthesis. You don't need to be a geek about this. You really don't. This is just for those who want a different tone. It's another way to get a really unique type of sound. And that's going to give you a more accurate tone. And let me just show you what that would sound like as the pad as well. So I'm going to move a little bit quicker here. Serum is just way easier to sound design in. Harmor, not for beginners at all. So I'm going to basically build a similar sound this time in Serumless. See how this feels cohesive, whereas the other sound feels kind of jarring and out of place. So what I'll do is I'll clone this and keep the original, just so in case that you guys have Harmor, you want to see what that sounds like. But I like Pattern 2, it just sounds better. That's another way too, you can add more harmonics over time. So let's say you wanted to, let me see if we can modulate this. I think we can. Yeah, we can. Okay, so what I'm going to do is turn this down. I'm just moving the knob. Go to the top left, go to Browse Parameters. It will light up the thing that I'm moving, in this case, the warp from A. Let's create an automation, or the warp on A. Let's create an automation clip. And basically, I can turn up the amount of FM synthesis over time, and that will brighten up the harmonics of the sound so that it feels progressive. Start leveling. Also, I just did a small change here, which is instead of the kick hitting perfectly on the grid, try offsetting the kick just a little bit so it doesn't hit perfectly on the downbeat. That adds a little bit more bounce to your track. Also, it feels like the hi-hats are a little early, so I'm going to move them. All right, so we can sit here all day and do little changes, but what I'll do is make small chord changes over time so it doesn't just sound like one monotonous long chord progression. So this requires music theory or just moving the notes around, just using your ear. So what I'll do is every, 8 bars, I'll change something up. So let's use a little deeper music theory. You don't need to do this because really it's a pad sound, so you can't hear it anyhow to this degree. And let's use a dominant ninth chord here. I'm gonna walk down. Where's the G? Pull it down. And let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is really advanced stuff I'm teaching right here. I teach this in our music theory magic course at busyworksbeats.com/music theory magic. We might not need to invert the notes, but I just want to hear what it sounds like. That's a little too R&B style. So we'll do the same thing here, but this time we're going to use bigger chords. Let's copy this over. So again, this is more advanced here. Now we're going to do minor ninths. This is just my style. This is not part of the genre per se. I like ninth chords. It just sounds good to my ear. And let's land on that C major ninth. So that's a small change up you can add in there just to change it up. You could also like flip these notes back to where they were. And then I'll copy this section right here one more time at the end. Okay, so now there's like small change ups. Okay, so let's hear it again. It's a little long, so I'm going to skip to the end here. All right, you get the concept. We could be here all day because the track is kind of slow. So go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio to get these project files for free. Peace out, guys. Subscribe if you're new. Peace.